just so that you all are aware. And I give another formal recorded welcome to everyone who has joined us today to learn a little bit more about what we offer in the School of Medicine. So I'll start with a very brief introduction because you don't really want to hear from me today. You want to hear from all of our amazing students who are in the room virtually with us. So my name is Julie Day. And I am the Assistant Director of Recruitment for the School of Medicine professional and undergraduate programs. Basically meaning I get to work with our amazing students that have come into the room today, along with our communication plan and being able to travel out onto the road and meet with all of you who are interested in our programs. So I am going to open up the chat here and I'm putting my name and email into the chat so that you have my contact information in case you would like to follow up with any questions at all that come up throughout the session today. And now I just want to take the opportunity to turn it over quickly to our students that are in the room. So we will just we'll run it alphabetically, but I'm going to switch it up today and go reverse order alphabetically. So that would be starting off with immunology and medical microbiology. I would love for each of our students to go around and just kick us off by telling us a little bit about yourself. So maybe, your name is a good place to start, along with maybe your hometown, and a little bit about what got you interested in your respective program. So without further ado, Katie, take it away.
Well, hello. My name's Katie Grimes. I am an immunology and medical microbiology major. I am from Huntington, West Virginia, which is about 3 hours away from Morgantown. And basically, the way that I picked this program is I just was looking around at like some nearby colleges. And, most of them had for med school, they had biology majors, chemistry majors, like the typical ones. So I decided to look at WVU's roster and I saw that IMMB offered just these research intensive tracks, and then there's just I don't know, you can have opportunities to do lots of medicine related things. And actually the first sentence on the homepage of our major map says, are you looking for a major that's a fast track into medical school? And of course I was like, yes, I am. So here I am a year later, still an IMMB major.
That's awesome. Thank you, Katie. And so up next, we would have with Health Informatics and Information Management, Caitlin Beagle. Caitlin, if you want to take it away. I kind of just stole your name there, so sorry about that.
No, you're good. Well, as Julie said, I'm Caitlin Beagle. I'm a senior in Health Informatics and Information Management here at WVU. So I'll be graduating in the spring. And I'm from Ripley, West Virginia, about 2.5 hours from Morgantown. And I got into this major because I was really interested in the medical field and all that it had to offer. But I quickly realized that dealing directly with patients wasn't really my thing. I was more interested in the business and technical side of healthcare. So that's what led me here.
Awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. I feel so strongly like HIM folks, you do such important work in the profession and in the field. And it's just super fascinating, all of the really important behind the scenes work that professionals in this field do. So thank you for that. And you'll be hearing more from both of these students, but we'll keep going down through the line here. And so with exercise physiology, Kat, if you want to take it away.
Hi, my name's Kat. I'm from Swedesboro, New Jersey, so it's 5 hours from here. I knew I wanted to go into the School of Medicine, but I wasn't sure if I wanted PT, OT, athletic training. So XPhys was kind of just a broad major where I could kind of figure out where I wanted to go. And now I figured out I want to do PT. So, and I'm a sophomore.
Thanks, Kat. That's awesome. And I'm really happy that the program did for you what it's really designed to do, help you kind of figure out which area of medicine you want to pursue. And a lot of the times that's the journey for our XPhys students is navigating. Maybe they come in thinking, one area, and through classes, faculty, find a whole other area of interest to explore and ultimately go down that path. So happy to hear you found the kind of path that you're heading towards, and thanks for the introduction. Up next, we're going to have Katie Klein with Communication Sciences and Disorders.
Hi guys, so my name is Katie. I am in my senior year of Communication Sciences and Disorders. So I also graduate in the spring. I also have minors in psychology and special education, so quite the mouthful. I am from Martinsburg, West Virginia, so that's about 2.5 hours away. It's in the Eastern Panhandle. And I chose CSAD, Communication Sciences and Disorders, because I love the idea of working with kids and teaching, but I also could not stand the idea of having 30 screaming kids at once. But I also really love the idea of the medical field and the diagnostic portion, and CSAD really combines both of them and gives me a lot of opportunity as far as clientele. If I want to work with kids forever, if I want to switch it up and work with a wide clientele population. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. I appreciate that. And last but not least, with biomedical laboratory diagnostics, Morgan, if you want to take it away.
Hi, I'm Morgan Marquardt. I'm a senior in biomedical laboratory diagnostics. I'm originally from Wheeling, West Virginia, so that's about an hour and a half from Morgantown. I really got into biomedical lab diagnostics because I was always interested in kind of like the lab side of medicine and kind of like the science behind the different diagnoses that we do give out to patients and things like that. And especially with the pandemic that we've been going through. I mean, we are the people that really run all of those COVID tests that come through the hospitals and just kind of like help the doctors make those decisions about what the patient is going through. And I think it's really exciting to kind of like uncover like the puzzle of like what is going on with the patients that you're dealing with in medicine without necessarily having the same level of patient interaction. But there's a ton of opportunities and I really love what I'm doing. So I hope you guys like school medicine too.
Thanks, Morgan. And I feel like, just to chime in here really quickly, I feel so proud to work with all of you because you each represent such a really beautiful way of having an impact in a patient's life and across healthcare in all of these different ways. And so whether you find yourself, caring for a patient through, the important lab work that makes up their story and how you're best able to care for them, whether you're protecting that information or you're, out in the room with the patient as they go through their care, you can find a home here. And that's something that I really appreciate for all of you as you kind of go throughout your journey. I was looking through some of the interests in the room today. We have a nice, I think, intimate group today. And I'm really happy about that. So if students that are in the room would like to either join us in video or unmute yourself and give yourself an introduction, tell us your name, where you're from, maybe what program you might be interested in. I know we have some biomedical lab diagnostic interest in the room, some health informatic and information management interest. And then maybe some of you are still kind of exploring what healthcare means to you. That's okay too. That's actually one of the beautiful things about being in the School of Medicine. It's super collaborative and supportive, as I'm sure you're going to be hearing a little bit more about. Even in my experience, not being a student, I feel that as I walk around some. So if anyone would like to jump in, we'd love to hear from you. And if not, I'm going to turn it back over to our panelists. So who is the brave soul that is going to kick us off and say hello and what major program you're interested in? You can also put it in the chat. That is completely fine. Whatever way you would like to engage and introduce yourself would be super welcomed.
Okay, so hi, my name's Ira. I'm from Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm interested in the biomedical lab and diagnostics route, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking about majoring in pre-med and chemical engineering as a double major. So still figuring things out.
Awesome, Era. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. It's really good to meet you. I'm actually from the Pittsburgh area originally. What part of Pittsburgh are you from?
I live in Sewickley. I go to Avonworth High School.
Oh, got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love Swickley. I'm actually planning a visit to your high school in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for me. That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you again. Anyone else in the room that wants to say hi, shout out.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I don't really know what the programs are, but I do know I want to be a radiologist. And I think I'm not too sure like what I want to like do in college, but I do know I want to do like a double major because like I also want to like run my own business and like open my own practice eventually. And I'm from Maryland, so yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophia. And I just to kind of chime in quickly before our panelists take it away, I think that absolutely you would have the opportunities for going on to pursue radiology in like an MD program through a lot of these different majors that we offer. That are going to provide you some of that more like STEM based, still within the medical field, but rigorous foundational coursework that will prepare you to go on to specialize in a field like that. I'm also even thinking of with Kat in exercise physiology, we usually will have students minor or do an area of emphasis in that major. It's like a requirement to either choose a minor at WVU or pursue one of our areas of specialty. And so I'm seeing for you maybe like this cool combo of business minor so that you're really gearing up in some of those skill sets, or potentially even the minor in healthcare data analytics, because then that way you'd be learning a little bit about both areas of patient care and how you'd be able to maintain both of those within your own practice. So just some food for thought that I'm kind of nudging along here for the conversation, but that's awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself. Thanks, Era, as well. I see your chat there that you're thinking maybe cardiothoracic or pediatric surgeon. I love it. Those are some amazing goals. Anyone else before we kick it off and get started want to shout out, say hi, introduce yourself? No problem at all. I see some other folks are in the room with us. So thank you for joining, meeting us where you're at. And I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over to our panelists. I have a few, as you can probably tell, I want these spaces to be very informal, just to hear from a true student perspective about what it's like to be in the School of Medicine. So I just have a few kind of quick points that I'll turn it over to our panelists for, but I do want to leave most of the time at the end just for questions that you all might have of a student in the School of Medicine and preparing for this journey ahead of you. But thinking along those lines, because we are representing a School of Medicine, all of our students are in different undergraduate programs, but they're oftentimes, working together with folks that are thinking about healthcare in all capacities going on into this, role professionally, and making it a part of their day-to-day and their career afterwards. So I'd love for each of you, just because every program is a little bit unique in this, to maybe go through and talk a little bit about what it's like to be a student in a School of Medicine. What does that day-to-day look like for you? And, what would you say are some of the unique aspects of not only your program, but being, an undergraduate in that space of a large R1 research university, specifically within the School of Medicine division? That was a big question with like 3 branches. Take it wherever you'd like. And whoever wants to kick us off can go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Is that all right?
That's great. Thanks, Katie. I was like, not all at once, guys.
Okay, so A little bit about my major. It's something interesting that we've started is that today we actually got into our case study. So it's kind of interesting because once we get to be like around sophomores, you get case studies of real people and you get to test like substances that come from them. Like there are people who get to test like skin cells and we're testing blood. And it's almost just kind of like something that like a real like doctor or researcher would get. Like they give you a paper with all the patient's symptoms and you have to just keep performing differential tests until you find out basically what type of bacteria the patient has and what's wrong with them. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun. You get to like play doctor because you get like a little white coat and everything, and you get to, you know, mess around with the bacteria and use the microscope and do all that fun stuff. But I'd say honestly, I'd know more about just like the day-to-day life as like a school of medicine student and about like the programs that like aren't just for my major than just like my major itself, I'd say. It's like, Julie, if you'd want me to continue on that, I'm not sure.
I'd say, yeah, elaborate a little bit more on that if you don't mind. And then, you know, if anyone else wants to jump in from there, that would be awesome.
Sure. So a couple of the older students might already be in this, but I actually just got accepted into the pre-med pipeline track today. So let's go. So what that is you can apply for it and you get to attend like exclusive workshops that help you get ready to apply to medical school, like about like the MCAT and about building a resume and a personal statement, etc. And if you get into the program, it also guarantees you an interview with the West Virginia School of Medicine. So there's that if everyone's interested, because I can see that lots of you want to go to med school, and that's also what I want to do. So there's just lots of different like competitive things that you can apply for. Like I could just go on and on.
Oh my gosh, congratulations. Katie, that's awesome.
Thank you.
I am
Oh, I'm very happy of my acceptance.
good news today. That's great.
Yeah, so I definitely encourage you to apply for that program. That's a really nice program.
Absolutely. And you're right. It's a really great example, but just one example of so many different opportunities that students can get involved with the intention of going to medical school or not, wanting to go into like professional practice opportunities, research experiences, like a lot of hands-on stuff. That's kind of the flavor I feel like I get from all of y'all in the School of Medicine. Is it's very hands-on no matter what field you go into. Hands-on meaning that you're doing the thing. You're really engaging in the work that it is that you'll be doing. So maybe taking that first big question I threw out there, sorry, and then that like concept of like what you're doing. What are you doing in the day to day? What does your life look like in your classes? Does anyone else want to jump in and kind of take it from there?
I can jump in on that because I feel like that's literally like everything you said is like what makes biomedical laboratory diagnostics such an awesome program.
Yeah.
And basically I would say like my day-to-day looks like I have labs just about every single morning, and then I get to go to class afterwards, but I really love starting my day in the lab because similar to what Katie said, like we're working with actual patient specimen, and we're getting to be kind of like those disease detectives in a way where we're getting to test them and just be on the scopes and running these different like bench tests that we can do to see like what is going on with this patient or things that you'll be using every day in your future practice. Or really what you need to know if you are interested in going to medical school, because a lot of students that are in like just a biology or chemistry major that intend on going to medical school, that's great. And they do learn a lot of those foundational elements that they need to, but in majors like IMMB and BLD and XPhys and everything else that we offer here, you're getting to learn kind of like the nitty gritty of the medicine that you really wouldn't be learning if you were just a bio or chem major downtown. So I think that that's really awesome. And there's a lot of outside opportunities as well. Like I recently started working at WVU Medicine in Uniontown Hospital in their hematology lab. So that's really awesome for me. I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I wasn't a BLD student here at School of Medicine, to get to go there after class twice a week and on the weekends to really see what it's like to work in a hospital and get those clinical hours and get paid to do it and enjoy what I'm doing. So it's really awesome to kind of have all of those hands-on opportunities in the classroom and outside of the classroom too.
I love that for you, Morgan. I'm so excited to hear that. I wasn't sure where you ended up for these professional experiences, and I think that sounds like a really good opportunity. I love too that you're kind of close by campus, but yet you still have like this new place, a new hospital experience that you're diving into as well. So thank you for sharing that. And that's such a good point, just to kind of highlight that as well. Like, for example, with all of our majors that, kind of have that emphasis on like patient care and working directly with patients, you're going to be immersed in a very intentional curriculum that gives you those foundations in human health and working with the human body. And then on the flip side of that, it's kind of the same thing whenever you're going into more of the, behind the scenes in terms of patient, care from like kind of a data analytics level, as well as with communication sciences and disorders. You're still in a very STEM-based heavy, curricular program in anatomical and physiological aspects of the body, but just specialized. You're only kind of focusing on here. And so I'd love to hear, maybe if I could have, some, Caitlin, Katie, tell us a little bit about what your life looks like, since it may be a little bit different than these folks, being in the lab and, working with test tubes, doing all of these different kind of cryogenic test, experiments. I hope I said that right. I try as much as like non-science person can. But anyone, jump on in and let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, so for health informatics and information management, right now as a senior, I only have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And when we graduate, we have 400 hours of professional practice built into our major. So like right now I'm doing volunteer work in the behavioral medicine department at Ruby. And that's what I'm doing for my professional practice. But there are so many options and opportunities to gain that experience. And I will say just being on campus or being in the hospital, it's just a great feeling to be surrounded by all of these professionals and people that have the same interest in healthcare as you. It's just a great feeling.
Absolutely. Caitlin, I'm happy to hear where you're doing your professional experience as well. Is that like behavioral health something that you're thinking about, like getting involved in after graduation, or is it like exploring an interest you hadn't maybe been, previously exposed to in classes? What was your thought process for that?
Yeah, that was mostly just a personal interest, and I'm helping them more with administrative work. So that gives me that experience because I hope to go into healthcare administration professionally, like a graduate program somewhere eventually. So that's what got me into that.
That's awesome. That is going to be really valuable experience. Great.
All right, so I will go through my day a little bit as a communication sciences and disorders major. I'll run through my day. Started off bright and early, 9 a.m. I had my speech disorders class. So we're going through all the different types of disorders you can have. And this is anything from speech sound disorders, fluency disorders, and how they present in patients, as well as how we would treat them in some different unique ways that we can go about that. Had a little bit of a break where I worked on training for the research lab that I just got admitted into. It is the School Age Language Acquisition and Disorders Lab. I had to look up the acronym for that. I'm sorry, it's a lot. We normally just call it the SALAD Lab. And for us undergraduate research students, what we do is we go through and we get language samples from the kids that are in an appointment in treatment, and then we go through and we analyze them to see if they are above age level, below age level, if they have any particular substitution errors, anything like that that might be noticeable that we can kind of like point them out. and make it a little easier for clinicians, we also get in submissions from all over the state of language samples that we will go through and analyze. It isn't just ones that we have in our brand new clinic that has just opened in the bottom of one of our buildings, which is super exciting, but we do get those from all over. So we sit there and analyze those. And then I had my reading research class in the afternoon. We are definitely taking a more research focused approach. Recently, communication sciences and disorders switched from one college to the School of Medicine. So I am a little newer to this than everyone else here, but I am extremely excited to be part of this school. And yeah, so we are definitely extremely focused on evidence-based practice and making sure whatever treatment we decide to go about has evidence behind it, that it is solid and there's proof behind it that it works. So we get really good at making sure we can read research articles fast and make sure that we are providing our patients with the best care possible. So yeah, and I'm spending the rest of the day talking to you all and then planning stuff for our student organization, NISLA, the National Student Language Hearing Association. I'm the service chair, so I'm coming up with a bunch of fun Halloween activities for us to do for the clinic kiddos, as well as just in the community. So yeah, it's a very busy schedule, but I love it and I wouldn't change it. So yeah.
Thank you, Katie. That is awesome. Actually, just hearing about literally your day and seeing like the different classes that you're taking. And I really appreciate that kind of way of looking at your major, that evidence-based approach to the different forms of care that you're providing to real community members. That's another really big point that you mentioned. Yeah, it is literally the community coming into this brand new speech, language, and hearing, so that's,
and everyone likes to think that speech path is just, sitting on the floor playing with toys with kids, but I promise it is anything but. We might be doing that, but there's a million things going on in our head while we're watching them play with trucks. So
absolutely. That's awesome. And Kat, last but not least, tell us everything. What is your day looking like, and how, has that really maybe informed a little bit of what you kind of initially shared in, thinking about your journey through medicine?
So since I am a sophomore, I don't really have that many classes over on the health science campus, but I am in labs like physics lab and chemistry lab, and I just take like an online like physical education course. It's just like about movement. But the one class that I do have in health sciences is kinesiology. And that kind of like narrowed down, like, I don't really want to be an athletic trainer, but like occupational therapy and physical therapy are still like, I'm like weighing them out. But yeah, kinesiology is just like, you just learn about all types of movements and how people get injured. And I like that part of it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate that kind of idea behind how people injure themselves and what we're able to do then to think about their recovery. And that process isn't always linear, and it looks a little bit differently. So going into all those different scenarios in kinesiology, I'm sure is super fascinating. And you're all kind of hitting on this point that, whenever you're in the School of Medicine, you're taking these classes that are very pointed towards understanding the human body, the different body systems, how they work together, how they might work independently, and then everything in between. So we talked a little bit about kind of what it's like to be in the School of Medicine, a little bit about what your day, will look like as a student. I have kind of two parting questions, which would be, I know many of you are coming to the end of your journey. Some of you are just kind of beginning the path to next steps. So when you think about some of your favorite parts of your major so far, and that can be super broad, or as specific as maybe like a favorite lecture you have been in that was just the most fascinating to you. Tell me about some of your favorite parts of being, in your major program, do you have that class that's really stood out to you, or that lab, or that conversation with a faculty member that led you to this opportunity? And then as you think about your next steps beyond the School of Medicine, what are some ways that you've been able to start kind of preparing for those particular parts of your journey as you think about next steps?
I can go first. So basically, I think that some of my favorite things that I really have enjoyed about being in biomedical laboratory diagnostics is that all of our classes, like once you start your your junior and senior year, you're mainly on health sciences, you're not downtown anymore. And basically every class that you take is a lab discipline. So you're taking a hematology lecture, you're taking a clinical chemistry lecture, or microbiology, or a blood banking lecture. So you're learning about like those different disciplines that we have in the lab, that you could either choose to be a generalist and do all of them, or specialize and get certified in a specific area. And I think my favorite so far has been hematology, just because I think it was really cool to just get to come in every day of the week and get to look at different like blood smears and like make them myself, and get to kind of like explore those different like disorders that we don't necessarily think about all the time, because they aren't like as physical as some other diseases and disorders may be. So I thought that was a really, really cool class that I got to take last spring. When it comes to like where I'm headed next, I had initially considered going to medical school, and I was in the pre-med track, like Katie mentioned earlier. But I decided that that wasn't really for me, and I wanted to pursue possibly a PhD or a master's in public health. So I am applying for all of those schools now. So wish me luck. That's, I think, the good thing about biomedical laboratory diagnostics is that you can do any of those things. Like we've had students go into physician's associate programs, pathologist assistant, medical school, dental school, graduate school. You can work immediately after graduation. Like there's so many opportunities and options, because you're doing all of those like foundational medicine classes where you're really learning about how the body works and how these diseases kind of like originate and where that pathology comes from. And I just find that so interesting to kind of like piece by piece, like it all just comes together, especially like your first semester senior years when you're in your last lecture. So next semester, all I'll be doing is working in a hospital during my clinical rotations, which is really exciting. So this is kind of like my last semester classes, which is a little bit bittersweet. But it all comes together at the end. And I think that's like a really beautiful thing, is when all of this work and effort that you've put in finally kind of culminates into one like awesome thing at the end.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Morgan. I'm so excited about that you're thinking about, those different graduate pathways. Keep me posted. That's amazing. And really just, I think, a great way to kind of summarize and encapsulate, like you said, all of the hard work that students do, because it is hard. Students in the School of Medicine are busy, as you've heard about today, constantly getting involved outside of class, a lot of study hours in these really rigorous STEM courses. And you still are finding a way to do that and make an impact and kind of find your fit all along the way to culminate that journey. And I'm really proud of all of you. It's great. Who wants to jump in? I actually just reminded myself of a question that I wanted to pose to the group as well. So if you don't want to go maybe the direction of, career and favorite parts of the program so far, if you want to share a little bit about, like, if you have any advice for incoming prospective students that you maybe wish you had known when you were a prospective student, what would that be? As you think about like study habits, just adapting to your undergraduate experience. I'd also appreciate any shout outs in that area as well.
Okay, so
sorry.
oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
you can go first.
You go. Seniority, you go.
Okay. Well, So first of all, I was just going to answer what I like about my major. So I really do like that it's kind of a small class. They only accept 40 people per year. So our class size is really small. And you'll find that even if you do end up joining the honors college, which they say gives you smaller class sizes, I'm in the honors college. I'm still in the same like Gen Chem, Gen Bio as everyone else. So the class sizes were not smaller there. But in specifically in my IMB classes, there's probably about like 15 of us per class or so. And that we've like formed like the tightest bond, like biggest camaraderie. Like all of the IMB people are like best friends, and we're all very close to our teachers. And honestly, our teachers are kind of like our friends at this point because it's been like a year. So just feeling like comfortable in your classes is a great thing. And there's always people like if you're in your organic chemistry course and you're like upset about it, there's always going to be like 5 people from your major that can like cry about it with you. So and then I guess if I have any advice to give, maybe try to like kind of think about what you're interested in doing beforehand, because I did not know of a lot of the programs that WVU had to offer before I showed up. Like for example, there's a research program that you can start your first semester of your freshman year. I didn't start it until my second semester because I didn't know it existed. But it's a research program that lasts for a year. I'm going to finish it this December. And joining this research program made me realize that I don't like research, and it's okay. Not every healthcare person has to. Like you can go to medical school if you're not interested in research at all, and you can do these majors and go get your PhD if you're not interested in medicine at all. It's kind of just like you can make it whatever you want to make it.
All right, so for XPhys, like I said, I'm still a sophomore, so my classes aren't like super small yet, but majority of my classes are people in XPhys since XPhys is such a big major. So I really like that you can talk to other people and they understand what you're going through with the classes. Like I just remember like last year when I had to take medical terminology, the PRT rides back, we'd just all be like complaining but we end up loving it. Um, some advice that I would have, don't be afraid to ask questions because 90% of the people around you are thinking the same exact thing. So just ask them. It's not embarrassing at all.
All right, I'll go. So what I've really enjoyed about health informatics and information management so far is that, first of all of the professors are great. There aren't very many professors, so you get close with all of them. And, they're just always there to answer your questions and anything you need from them, they've got you. Also, my classes are in high flex format, which that means they're offered on campus and online at the same time. So if you're ever feeling sick or just you don't feel like going to campus for whatever reason, you can just attend live on your computer. So that's really nice. Some advice I have, you'll probably hear this a lot from everyone, but to try to get involved on campus with clubs and organizations, WVU has so many to choose from, and they've made my experience here 100 times better.
All right, I will go ahead and finish it up. So as far as my favorite experience, it's going to be in my intro to assisting class that I took last spring. And that was whenever typically it was in the clinic, but with COVID, we weren't allowed in there, which I understand. So we watched a whole bunch of clinical videos every week, and then we would take a whole separate day to analyze what the clinician did, treatment, stuff like that. And one of my favorite videos we watched was for a transgender voice client, and being able to sit there and watch the clinician really help this client be able to find a voice that truly embodies who they are and is affirming for them was just a whole new level of just, this is what I'm doing, and I'm helping people feel comfortable in their own body with their own voice. And a cheesy thing we all say in the major is everyone deserves a voice, and being able to help people get that or get a voice that they feel embodies who they are is just absolutely incredible. And I love that class because up until then, it was majorly just, sorry, I was reading the chat and then but this is very exciting. And we were going over stuff behind the scenes and learning all that, but then finally going to intro to assisting. It was seeing all those pieces come together and what we've learned to be able to finally see, okay, this is what we're going to do in the future. And it was very exciting to see that. As far as advice, one, get a really good comfy pair of walking shoes. You're going to be walking all over. Please, your feet are going to hurt. You cannot wear Vans all the time. I know they're cute, but my feet hurt. Please don't. And two, do not be afraid to go to office hours. I know freshman year, I was terrified to go because I'm like, I don't want to be one-on-one with my professor. That's scary. And now I go all the time. I've literally gone to my one professor's office hours almost every day since the semester has started. So please go. It's really nice to get that one-on-one connection with your professor and just form that bond. I know I love that, especially now that I'm looking to apply to grad schools and trying to find letters of recommendation. Having that one-on-one connection definitely helps. I know all of us that are close to that end of undergraduate, can attest to that. But I definitely think it's good to go to office hours. Please don't be afraid to ask questions. Like someone said, I apologize, I don't remember who said it. But if you have questions, just answer them. Just ask them because someone else is going to have the same one. So, but yeah. College is great. It's a fun time. It's so much different than high school and you're going to love it. So.
I love listening to you guys talk. So seriously though, it's the best. So I'm just giving a shout out. I think Liliana might have left, but just a huge shout out to Liliana who said, thanks for all of the great information. And we have approximately, 15 minutes here. Huge thanks, first off, to these amazing students. I wouldn't be able to do it without y'all. Seriously, you're amazing. And so, in these last few minutes here with the folks that we have left in the room, is there any questions that are on your mind, whether they're School of Medicine specific, program specific, WVU specific, any questions that might be on your mind? You have 5 amazing students in front of you that are here to answer the questions. If not, that's totally fine too. You might be in the early stages of this. I was happy to see, you logging on early September. We're really still getting back into the swing of things, but yet here you are. So, if there's anything that's on your mind, feel free to pop it in the chat, shout it out. And then if not, I'll wrap up the recording and make sure to be sending that out along with all of the students that were here today, their information in case you do have questions that you want to follow up on. So with that, anything on your minds that we can help with?
I kind of answered this in the chat, but I'll answer it. I'll say it out loud too, in case you're not reading the chat. But yeah, like Sophia, like you asked, so could you major in whatever you want and still go to medical school? Yes, literally any of our School of Medicine undergraduate programs are like perfect for medical school, because those first 2 years you're going to be taking your basic like biology, chemistry, math classes, whatever that you need to take, which are prereqs for not only your undergrad programs, but for medical school as well. And the thing that I think really benefits you from being in School of Medicine is that you really get to get some of those clinical hours, those volunteer hours. You get those smaller class sizes so that you get to form those relationships with your professors like Katie was talking about, because I guarantee you every single graduate in medical school program is going to require at least 2 to 3 letters of recommendation. So it's really great to get that one-on-one time to kind of talk with your professors and ask them what their process was going through undergrad and things like that. I've been working with one of my professors who he graduated from the PhD program that I'm applying to at WVU. So he's been an immense help with all of that stuff, which is really great. If you're someone like me who's never had any family members or anything like that, really pursue that and you don't know where to start. So, but yeah, for sure. Any of these 5 majors that we talked about, really just pick one you're passionate about and you can go anywhere with any of them.
Thank you, Morgan. That was perfect. I really appreciate you shouting that out. And it looks like maybe a couple other questions maybe came in just like about, applying to medical school, thinking about that pathway. what you can do to prepare for that. So we talked a little bit about the pre-med experience, both you and Katie. If you want to talk about that a little bit more in detail, and then also like for anyone, in the room, just any opportunities that you know about as a student in SOM that would help students prepare for that particular pathway, and just like any maybe advice for students who are thinking in that professional track or route. I'd appreciate just any insight that you would be willing to share. Also, before anyone jumps in, I'm just seeing that there was a question about the 5 majors. So we have immunology and medical microbiology there, biomedical lab diagnostics, exercise physiology, health informatics and information management, and communication sciences and disorders. You just reminded me that last but not least, as I type in the chat here, I'm putting in a direct link to our professional and undergraduate studies like main page, landing page, so to speak, where you can go on to look at admission requirements, curriculum, different opportunities within each of these majors, and follow up as you start to look into them if you have any more questions. I think this can be a nice way to, just gain a little bit more information about the, the programs. I see the chat's also going strong here. It looks like we're talking about kind of moving from a first degree and, thinking about some of those, opportunities later on. Absolutely. I think, especially with, so I'm seeing Akita, when you're talking about the microbiology major undergraduate, I think that will be very excellent preparation for coming in as, a potential, candidate for one of our programs that we have here today, if you would want to pursue an additional degree, or if you'd want to go into any of the graduate or professional programs, you can definitely reach out to me. We could talk a little bit more about some of those different options for students coming in from a different institution. Oh, thanks. I try. And I'm seeing a question from Sophia about how double major works. If you could maybe, somebody chime in on that, just about like what your thoughts are. That'd be cool. They don't want to hear me the whole time.
I'll go ahead and go because I also am just a regular admissions ambassador. So I know a little bit about this. I'm not entirely sure if this changes or what this also has to do as far as School of Medicine, but I believe you cannot declare a double major, at least until you're finished your first semester. It might be your first year. I'm not entirely sure. I believe it's first semester, then you can declare it. I personally have 2 minors and that works well for me as far as School of Medicine, but I also know people that have 3 majors. So, there's definitely time for you to do it as well, because I have found that if I didn't have these minors, I would just be taking random electives. And I think it's way better to have your skills honed in on something you're more interested in. And it also makes you far more marketable. If you're looking to pursue higher education or further education, I think that's definitely a route you should look in pursuing. Now, as far as double majoring into School of Medicine degrees, I do not entirely know the process on that or if that is possible, but I do definitely recommend at least picking up a minor in something, if not 2 majors. So this way you're not just taking a bunch of random classes. I mean, it isn't bad to spread your knowledge out, but that's what we have general electives for. So yeah, I hope I answered that okay. And if not, I'm sure someone else can chime in.
So I'll just jump in to say thank you, Katie. That was super helpful. And in terms of, like the double major process in the School of Medicine, I would also echo what you're sharing. Y'all have enough in one major. They're very intensive experiences. And a lot of the times, if they're going to be majors across these different areas, they're going to have some of those similar prerequisite courses like we were mentioning before. So, It would, in theory, be something you could explore, especially maybe if you're coming in with some of those prerequisites already completed. But that would be a bit more of a question for your academic advisor. Once you would indicate which is your primary major of interest, and then sit down with your academic advisor after being accepted and enrolling officially at WVU, that's when it would be a time to kind of explore whether that would be possible. I see the, oh, go ahead. Go.
Okay.
Sorry.
So as far as taking extra classes with a minor, typically those are like 15 credit hours, exactly like Caitlin said, let's go. And we're on the same page here. That's like 5 to 6 classes, but most of the time those will overlap with your general elective classes. So my minor's in SPED and psychology. SPED is special education, sorry, realized acronyms. And so my first special education class I took filled a general elective for me, as well as 2 of my psychology courses that I took for a general elective work towards that minor in that. So that's kind of how I got started on it. This way, there were maybe only 3 classes I had to take outside that didn't like double dip in other areas. So it made it possible for me to still graduate in 4 years and still not be overloaded as far as the schedule. So you can double dip. It does not cost any extra money as far as, undergrad, you just pay a flat rate for being a full-time student. Don't think that if you add that, you have to pay more. You don't. Trust me, because I'd be paying a lot more. So you are okay as far as that goes. And it's a few extra classes, but normally, like right now, we'll do last semester. Last semester, I think it was 2 communication sciences and disorders majors. I had a special education class, and I also had a psychology class. And so that gave me enough credit hours to still be considered a full-time student while also working towards my minors. So, and what would have been those special education classes and those psychology classes would have just been random electives. So instead of just having elective courses, you just have those that are honed in on your minor. So.
Yeah, and I'll jump in and say that I definitely do not know as much about double majoring as Katie does. But I believe that trying to double major in a School of Medicine major would be extremely difficult because not only do School of Medicine majors have to take difficult prereqs, like, all the organic chemistry, the physics, the this, that, and the other just like hard biology classes, but you also have to take classes concerning your major. Like, I have to take like a couple of IMMB specific classes per semester, and all of the other 4 majors have to do all sorts of major specific classes for their major. And I think I even heard someone say that they wanted to double major in chemical engineering. I think that would be extremely difficult. Like I said, I don't know much about it, so go for it if you really want to, but I'd say that majoring in the School of Medicine is like almost a full-time job. Like there's just so much that goes with it that I feel like if you were to double major, it would seriously impact your mental health, to be honest.
That's a really fair point. Everything that you all have shared, and also just kind of jumping off that last point, the balancing factor of making sure that you are staying healthy in all areas is super important when you're thinking about these experiences. So yeah, definitely, I appreciate all of those points. Very, very important. So I'm seeing the time here. We're coming to kind of the end of our time. There have been some great points brought up by students in the chat along with our conversation here. So if you haven't had the chance, Caitlin has shared some also really helpful points throughout the chat as well. And I just want to take a moment here before we wrap up to thank all of you for being here and really kicking off some of our first events of the School of Medicine. We are going to have so many more events coming up throughout the semester. And I'm actually pulling that up right now so that I can put a link in the chat to our visit page. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of disjointed here as I click on links and get everything set up. I'm going to go ahead and grab that link now. Here it is, coming your way. And oh my goodness, Akinda Toon, I really do appreciate you joining us, especially at such an hour. Yeah, where are you right now? You're in Nigeria. That's awesome. Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This is awesome. So I put the chat, in the chat up. I send it as a direct message. That is not going to help everybody. I'm sending it now to everyone. So if you have any other questions or you've enjoyed today, just getting to know a little bit more about our programs, definitely consider jumping in for some of our other opportunities coming up through the pipeline this semester, and really look forward to hopefully seeing all of you a little bit more. Thanks again for taking the time tonight, and thank you again to all of our students. I know you're busy, and I really appreciate this hour of your time on a Wednesday evening. So take care, everyone. Good night. For Akinda Toon, maybe hopefully getting some sleep now. And wherever you find yourself in your day, thank you again for taking the time to join us. Bye, everyone.